So with that, we're going to go from super apps and transition more into the world of retail insurance. Because it's now time for a panel that will give an overview of the state of innovation in the retail insurance world. So will innovative technologies, we've mentioned many of them already today, be able to bridge the gap between delivering new features, really that customers many times are asking and requiring, and also combining it with customer value without disrupting one of the most, let's say, traditional sectors that retail insurance is. We all know that insurance is on the cusp of a new horizon, so let's hear more about this. And I have an eminent moderator who will be moderating this panel. It's Walid Daniel Dib, who is co-founder and CEO of Hala Insurance, where he is leading the development of Hala, a B2B insurtech company that is building a subscription-based lifestyle insurance in the Middle East. So please give it up for Daniel, if he's here. There you are, Daniel. The stage is yours.
Hi, everybody. Just a minor correction, B2C InsurTech. No problem, that's okay. I'll introduce myself shortly, but first I just want to welcome to the stage all of the other speakers. Paul, Peter, and Gilbert, please, guys, you can join us over here. Guys, we're going to be discussing digital trends in insurance and how they've changed with time. So before I even introduce myself, I'll give Paul a chance to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Walid. My name is Paul McLeod. I'm COO of Emirates Insurance, a domestic property casualty insurer here in the UAE. We have a strong retail focus in a traditional market and also some commercial lines business. I look after the customer function, the IT department, claims, and service delivery.
Thank you, Walid. I'm Peter England. I run Zurich's Middle East and Africa business and based in the DIFC. And I think the angle, what I will, my position today, I come from the reinsurance space. And what we refer to when we speak about reinsurance is effectively insurance of other insurance companies. And it turns out just next to us in the DIFC, we can find a regional local reinsurance market turning around roughly $2 billion every year.
Hello, my name is Gilbert Ohana. I'm a partner of Ventures. It's a venture capital fund, a global fund, but based in Tel Aviv, Israel. We invest in all stages of companies, but focus mainly on insurtech and fintech companies. We've invested in companies like Next Insurance and Hippo Insurance, some of the leading insurtech companies worldwide. And we also work continuously with our LPs to provide them with access to technology, expertise, and work with them on innovation activities according to their challenges on things like on subjects like climate change, automotive, cyber security and cyber insurance, and other kind of activities.
Thank you. I'll just take the opportunity to introduce myself as the co-founder of Hala. My background is in insurance. Typically, it's not considered a sexy topic as much as open finance or metaverse, NFT, AR/VR, stable diffusion, et cetera, but you'd be surprised about how exciting it actually is. Prior to Hala, I had a B2B startup called Addenda, which we sold recently. In Hala, what we're building basically a way to insure the 450 million people in the Middle East for car insurance, home insurance, health insurance. We want to outsource people's worries to Hala, but that's enough about me. Let's talk today about embedded insurance. Let's talk about insurance and APIs and also the digitization of insurance in the Middle East. We might have to be a bit loud, guys, because there's people shouting outside, so I hope you guys don't mind that, and I hope you guys don't mind either. I'm going to kick it off with Paul. Paul, with Emirates Insurance being one of the biggest insurance companies in the Middle East, how do you see the trend since you came here changing with insurtechs popping up more and more and more?
Thanks, Walid. I moved to the Middle East in 2010. So conventional wisdom back in those days was that people didn't like doing digital transactions, that customers would want to come to the office and have a roll of cash and pay in cash and bring their family and go home. So I think as an insurer back in those days, there's a lot that hasn't changed. We're stuck in a world of many legacy systems, and they're functionally poor, and it's a challenge every day to be able to provide the right kind of customer service that actually makes a happy customer and keeps them sticky. So over the intervening period, what the growth of fintechs is really giving me the opportunity to do is to find a way around my legacy platform. So it's letting me provide quick-to-market solutions that are customer-focused rather than my old product silos, and it's letting me be a lot more responsive and reactive than if I was just leveraging my core insurance application.
Thank you. Yeah, so that's an interesting issue that I think is being faced by a lot of insurance companies in general, is we see banks migrating at a very breakneck pace with a lot of vendors, startups, and open banking APIs being widely available that they could move their legacy systems to, but perhaps there's not enough choice with insurtech solutions right now, as many as there are for banking, at least in the MENA. And Gilbert, kind of jumping to your side on that, I want to talk about APIs and parametric insurance, and what have you seen in other parts of the world being used for insurance companies? What kind of new types of risk are they able to access? How are they able to pay out a claim on the spot using APIs and parametric insurance?
Yeah, well, we see the parametric insurance as a...
You might have to bring the mic a bit closer to them.
We see the parametric insurance as an opportunity for insurtech companies because it requires... So parametric insurance, just to maybe outline the subject a little bit, is the type of insurance in which you agree with the customer on a specific event, that in that case of the event, you will pay out a certain amount of a payment, right? And typically, the event is non-disputable, so it is like flight cancellation, a flight delay, a vacation cancellation, hotel reservation cancellation, any kind of events that can be monitored via APIs and data, and you can, as an insurer, you can automatically pay out the claim, and thus there is a very low cost of claims operations, etc. So it's a very good opportunity for insurtech companies because it requires building a technology stack that is highly scalable with, of course, the intensive use of data to underwrite such risks, and eventually integrate that product to other maybe types of distribution channels like embedded insurance and other kind of service providers. So it's a huge opportunity for insurtech. And I think for insurers, which basically are lacking the expertise to do that, it could be a great opportunity to collaborate with insurtech companies in order to provide, of course, the capital and the risk to cover those risks. And we can see a lot of, lately we see a lot of new products in the market, like coverage. So the basic products were like flight cancellation, anything related to leisure maybe, right? Vacations, flights, etc. I've seen some very interesting companies in the USA about sporting events, okay, cancellation and sporting events, protection against all kinds of events, and up to business protection in terms of covering downtime of cloud service providers, right? That is also can be triggered and activated automatically according to any different kinds of companies who are monitoring these kind of services. So a lot of opportunities in that space.
That's very interesting. Sometimes I draw comparisons to how insurance started at the very beginning as a gamble. You go like, I bet I'm not going to be okay, and I go like, I bet you're going to be okay. And then it became so much more complex over time. And now with APIs, with blockchain and open insurance, hopefully in the end, with parametric insurance, it can go back to, I bet I'm going to be okay, and I bet you're not, based on facts and data provided via information. And I think one of the other examples is potentially in Africa right now, there is crops insurance via the Crypto Insurance Alliance, if anybody has heard of it, through Lemonade and Etherisk on the Ethereum blockchain. That's pretty interesting because you cannot dispute a hurricane, you cannot dispute over large swaths of area a crop failure or a drought. And that's something I find very fascinating. Going next to Peter, on that, as reinsurers, you insure insurance companies. And when we think about large-scale events like Hurricane Ian in the States, or even certain in some parts of the Gulf right now, there may be flash floods coming soon, God forbid. But if things like that, how do reinsurers, what kind of technology would they be looking for to be able to handle such large volumes of claims?
So a typical reinsurer would every year they would model both sort of attritional large and catastrophic losses, right? So we price for them, it's fair to say, and there is a level of normal for us that's sort of built into our premiums. What we're seeing lately, though, when you refer to Ian, so as we speak, there's a lot of discussion about what effectively the bills. And I look just on the cost, the insured loss in Ian's case. And it looks like it's going to be way above the sort of 10-year average on what we normally pay out under a normal sort of yearly cycle. So what can we expect from technology? Well, we can expect technology to give us better estimates, right, when it comes to the catastrophic losses. We could also expect technology to give us a better idea about accumulation of losses as well, and where and when to expect them. So I think this is where technology has a great role to play. There is, though, I think that the level of disruption, if you compare the direct side to the reinsurance side, is slightly different. I would argue, if you look at InsurTech focus over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of focus, particularly on the distribution side, where you can also generate a lot of value just on the policy and claims side of things with technologies like blockchain, for example. And this is where I see, personally, huge potential.
Excellent. And on the topic of blockchain, in a previous life, we had started a B2B startup that did the first consortium of insurance companies on the blockchain in the UAE in 2018, and Emirates Insurance was one of the companies that took part in this consortium. The intention was to reconcile payments between insurance companies and have a kind of an open insurance protocol similar to open banking, where insurance companies can share claims and they can share customer information or even accident history with each other for medical and motor. How do you see that happening in the future, somewhere like the UAE, a protocol for open insurance?
Based on experience, I think the unique thing for us as an insurer that happened on that blockchain program, we were able to exchange value-added loss information with our colleague companies in a non-threatening manner. So I think if you look at the insurance market in the UAE, it's intensely competitive. I think the notion of somehow companies cooperating together where there's an opportunity you might lose customer data, it's just not going to happen. There's a huge barrier to that kind of collaboration. And so I think in order to leverage the technology moving forward, the key thing is to develop a trusted third party that provides the infrastructure, the umpiring, the guidance, the refereeing, and that's a value-added platform that people can participate with confidence, to know that they can actually exchange contracts or exchange payments and do that with confidence.
That's a great comment. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of blockchain companies here, and this is one of the biggest use cases that has been proven in many parts of the world already. But to kind of piggyback on that, I don't know if anybody here is from Saudi. Saudi had a system, or still has a system called Najm, which is very similar. It does not use the blockchain, as far as I know, but it was very similar to the platform that we have done. However, I think in their case, the regulator was to an extent involved in nudging the insurance companies to all join, whereas in our case, what had happened was 9 companies had joined over the course of about, I think there was an element to the regulator as well.
Well, I think that's a really good point. I think, as a community of insurers, we're actually quite driven to invite other companies that were not participating to increase the network effect of the participants. And when it comes to exchanging claim files with other insurers, there are good payers and there are poor payers. And of course, the people that are on the program that want to improve their efficiency and improve transparency are the good corporate citizens. So we brought the good corporate citizens to the table, and we spent all our time talking to the perhaps less good corporate citizens around participating. So I think as a community of 9 or 10 insurers, we entertained the hope that there would be some sort of a directive along the way to participate across the industry. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet. But I think what the industry showed is that left to its own devices, it polarizes around good citizens and not so good citizens.
Kind of like self-policing in a way. That's
Yes.
pretty interesting. The case was very much like a traditional cryptocurrency. It just takes a lot of people to believe in it for it to have value. And the same applied for us. I mean, out of the 45 insurance companies in the UAE, 9 had applied and became part of this blockchain. But I digress. And going back to Gilbert, let's talk a bit about your investment experience in insurtechs. You invested in several Israeli insurtechs, Israeli fintechs, as well as in the US and in Europe. So what are red flags? Because I'm sure there are startups here who are ready to pitch, but what are red flags that you know the moment an insurtech pitches to you, go like, not interested?
Yeah. So you need to first of all separate between early stage companies and late stage companies. Other partners at FinTLV deal with the late stage companies as they are diving into the business numbers, right? Me and myself and other partners are more focused on the early stage companies, and I would say that I think that for me the red flags are founders or founder that don't show enough, the understanding that insurance is a very challenging business, right? Because sometimes I meet with founders who tend to show me or convince me that they have all the answers. And I think this is something for me, a very red flag, because this is so much complicated. They don't understand at the beginning the amount of effort needed for a company who wants to be a broker, for example, right? To be regulated, to get a license for selling products. How complex is the value chain of insurance from the reinsurer through the actuarial model and the distribution models and the claims, etc. Not saying that I all have the answers, but I would like to know that the founders showing that they are open to discussions, receptive to think about questions and out that they have all the answers. It's one. I think this is the main one. Also, at least in Israel, I think is something that I quite see often. A lot of founders, entrepreneurs in Israel are tech-oriented, right? And being tech-oriented, they are more focused about technology, and they need to understand again that the business of insurance is all about the business itself, right? It is supported and built on technology and data, but eventually you have to know the numbers and to see how your company will be able to reach profitability in terms of having a good unit economics. And I think that technology-oriented founders that don't understand that they need like to have a co-founder which is maybe from the insurance industry or have insurance experience, start with a bad starting point.
No, that's a very valid point. And case in point, it's when you know you've done something wrong, it's worthwhile admitting it in front of a bunch of people you don't know. So in our case here, my background is in insurance. I'm an insurance founder. And at the same time, just like you said, it's sometimes often the founder's job to be visionary, sometimes a bit too much. They have to be brought down to earth by investors, but also by co-founders. I'm not a technology co-founder. We have a CTO who is our co-founder who's tech-enabled. My brother is the COO, background in construction. He's a numbers guy. I'm the guy on stage that dreams big and they tell me, slow down, come back here. So it's very interesting that you make that kind of differentiation about founders in Israel being heavily either tech-focused or business-focused and having to have that balance. And on that balance is something very interesting that we as Hala had started here 4 years ago as a different startup called Addenda, which we discussed about selling. And there's two main programs that are very well known as accelerators in the UAE, FinTech Hive and Hub 71. Of course, there's several more, but these are the ones that we were part of. Zurich was one of the companies that actually sponsored and took heavy part in nurturing the ecosystem when it came to InsurTechs 4 years ago before anybody else. So just walk us through what through your mind, guys, to consider, okay, this is the right time 4 years ago to be the first to go into supporting InsurTech with FinTech Hive.
Thanks, Walid. I think, yeah, the FinTech Hive experience has indeed been a great one. For me, immediately when I came across the opportunity, I felt it was a good opportunity for us to give back to something, a region and a platform, the DIFC, that had been very, very good to us, and promote something that we believe and that we believe strongly in, and that would be the InsurTech and the digital transformation and our own operational transformation to some extent. So I think it felt it was a very natural step. We've come across the FinTech work streams, and now we had an opportunity to work with a lot of promising InsurTech companies, and I think it was a great opportunity not only for us then to partner with these companies, but also to learn from them and see how they think about our industry and where we may come with a more sort of conventional look on things, and for how that view to be challenged was quite refreshing. I think we need to remember the insurance space is a gigantic industry. We're talking about trillions of US dollars being turned around each year, and there are very many ways in which you can approach this. And here we found then a local initiative, the FinTech Hive, and it was natural for us to be a partner. Zurich has a number of other InsurTech partnerships on a global basis. We would buy assets every year. Some of these, most of them obviously make the headlines, but we will gather all these acquisitions, and these technologies will come under a global function called Zurich Global Ventures. And in parallel, we also run something called the Zurich World Championships. And I'm saying this because I would like to promote, obviously, participation, where we select a couple of InsurTechs to work with, to fund them, and again, to work with them and partner with them as much as possible.
Jumping back to Gilbert, something that just crossed my mind is right before here we were talking about the metaverse, and you can't be on a GITEX space without talking about the metaverse, guys. It's something that just happens. So it's part of the contract of us being here. We have to mention it. But jokes aside, Gilbert, in a very interesting fashion, what do you think is the touch point between insurance and insuring property on the metaverse, insuring people's identities on the metaverse? I think it's a pretty strange topic, but a very interesting topic to know more about. And do you have any experience with startups who are actually pushing into this space?
Yeah, I must say that I came across the metaverse like a year ago, almost by accident. One insurance company, an LP of the fund, asked me, "What do you know about the metaverse?" And I went to learn, and I was amazed. Right? It's like a new society evolving in the metaverse, in different kind of virtual spaces, with all kind of experiences they have virtually, right? Socializing, attending events, doing business. It was amazing to me. I think that first of all, within 10 years, life would be different. I don't know how life will be. I can't even describe them, right? What would my sons and my other children will be their reality in the metaverse. So basically, I think that anything that is insurable in the physical world can almost be found in the virtual world. It's just in the right time and the right demand, okay? But we've seen, of course, cryptocurrency and all the NFT activity can be insured, okay? But not only that, your digital identity, as you mentioned, can be insured also because it's being stolen from you.
Reputational risk.
Right? It's being stolen from you, and some bad actors are doing bad things on behalf of your name, right? And that can be also insured. We see, I think in the past months or so, the metaverse as a whole evolving like a society, right? There are activities like socializing and business, but also crimes, theft, harassment, digital identity theft, as I mentioned. All these activities are also need to be covered. Your business selling virtual good in the metaverse can be hacked and you can lose income. So income protection can also be a product in the metaverse. All the things that can be covered eventually will be covered, I think, in the right time, within the right demand in the metaverse. And we've seen some insurance companies examining and doing their first steps into the metaverse to understand how to collaborate with such a new domain, how to understand the risks, how to develop the expertise needed to integrate and operate with such companies that are operating in the metaverse. Web3 companies, as we discussed, like Chainlinks, Nexus Mutual. It's another company, gather data, they understand the risk, building actuarial models, etc. So it's the right time, I think, for companies, insurance companies, to start thinking about that in a way that will allow them to not miss, the market in the right when it will be a huge opportunity for them.
And that's a step beyond the concept of parametric insurance for real-world items, but rather parametric insurance for smart contracts. By looking at the blockchain, you can see if this decentralized cryptocurrency exchange was drained out of its funds. Ideally, you can automatically pay the people back their insured capital. But with such large hacks that are $500 million in value, like the recent Binance hack, you kind of think, okay, is insurance in the metaverse, or is insurance on the technology front similar to how in 2008 the insurance market collapsed in the real world? What would happen if the insurance market protecting cryptocurrencies collapses as well? Going back from the metaverse to planet Earth, talking about car insurance, talking about home insurance, medical, and focusing on cross-selling insurance. What are digital trends that you see relating to cross-selling of insurance policies internally with you guys, with whether it's through APIs or through having a proper data warehouse?
I think from our perspective, I mentioned earlier my legacy platform and how I'm finding ways to get to my customer around that platform. The key enabler for me is really the data warehouse and how I can marry up different data from around the same customer and a different product set, and standardize it, enrich it, and build on product offering. So I think for me that's a key piece. Moving forward, the opportunity with embedded insurance is huge, and I think from a retail standpoint that there are some great examples here in the UAE with some products that are embedded into our dealings every day, and I think that the likelihood is that will grow, and the complexity of those products will move up the value curve over time. But I think that really the underpinning for that is really a place to bring all that data home and align it and direct it to the customer.
No, that's there's a company called Extend. I don't know if anybody here knows them. They're effectively, right now we have the whole buzz of BNPL at checkout. You just add a BNPL button. There's deep interest in Europe right now for companies like Extend, and you have at checkout, you add extended warranty. And as many insurance people on this panel here know, that's a money printing machine for insurance, especially with the customer lifetime value in the UAE. You stay here for 3 years, you buy IKEA stuff, you leave. So Extend is one of those companies that's doing exactly the same, wherein they effectively put a button at checkout for Sharaf DG or for Virgin Megastores or whatever, and you can get extended warranty for your, with a simple API key, you can get extended warranty for your products. I think companies like that shifting to the Middle East and with a deeper focus on that is going to be a huge thing for embedded insurance in MENA. Going from insurance to reinsurance, looking at payables and receivables and blockchain or otherwise, but digitization of payables and receivables have been discussed here for insurance companies directly. It's like a cog that moves slower each level up, right? From the customer to the broker, broker to the insurer, insurer to the reinsurance broker, and then to the reinsurer. How do you see digitization affecting the kind of reconciliation process for reinsurance?
I think that's an important start, and it's maybe just due to the nature here. I would say in general here in the region that late payments is a significant issue, right? And especially if I look at core markets here in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. So I believe, as I mentioned earlier, if you can apply sort of potentially a blockchain solution, right, and addressing this and creating, I think you can achieve a lot of value you can by just creating line of sight in that between say two parties. So I think this is an important area. Claims would be another one, but we need to make the distinction here. When I look at the retail space and when I look at the large commercial space, that the sort of the disruption, the nature of disruption is quite difficult if I compare the two. You mentioned cross-sell, Walid, and I would say cross-sell when you are insuring assets like the Burj Khalifa or the Aramco IPO or a complex cyber scheme. Obviously, I would say that process when it comes to cross-sell and the trade in effect is very much still a people's business.
Absolutely, and I think that I just wanted to add that I think that the nature of the insurance contract with purchase of reinsurance. So our underwriters go out, we win a contract, and then we engage with 10, 12 reinsurers to actually lay off some of the risk. Now, what does that mean when I have a claim? It means I've got 12 participants that I need to engage with. So I'm not sending an email to my reinsurer to say, hey, we need to notify you about this claim. I've got 12 conversations that sometimes have different terms and conditions, different arrangements, and a huge logarithmic complexity associated with that communication. And that's, but what I've seen in my time in the Middle East is that that's only increasing, that complexity. And I'm sure that's a global trend in terms of penetration of reinsurance.
I think if there's any fintechs or insurtechs here that are interested in anything to do with working on workflow management tools, this is a USP that's from directly from the insurance company and the reinsurance saying help. I think, guys, we have 5 minutes left. I'm going to leave with one last question to you, Gilbert, before we open this page for others to ask. And this is a question for all of the startups that are here. I'm speaking on their behalf. As now almost Series B company, all of the seed stage companies here that you do look at, what advice would you give to an insurtech that is targeting MENA, and maybe more widely, if not insurtech, to a fintech in general? Because I think your expertise is fintech wide. So what kind of advice would you give to a seed stage fintech if they're about to come and pitch to you right after this, right after this conversation here?
So I would say two things. The first one is that when you're pitching to a VC, and I like to, so for me, the best encounter is to have like a meeting, not the elevator pitch, right? I don't like the elevator pitch, but when you have a meeting with a VC, I think that you need to stand out, right? There are so many companies today, so many startups working in all aspects of fintech and insurtech. For everything that you can almost think about, there is probably companies already building something, right? And you need to stand out in terms of catching the attention of the VC, standing out in the value proposition that you will offer to customers, standing out in how will your go-to-market strategy be and how will you attract customers, okay? You have to have that kind of organized model to pitch to the VC. It needs to know that you have this all figured out, not in the way that you are about to succeed. We understand that there are so many things required in order to succeed, but you address those issues, right? And you have planned for them. So you have a good go-to-market strategy and you have a good value proposition to the customer. Why would the customer choose you over other companies? So, Walid, you are an auto insurance company, right? There are so many auto insurance companies. Why would the customer choose you? You need to have a good answer for that.
Am I pitching? It depends.
No, you don't have to pitch. But I think that is something that you have to explain to the VC. Will it be on on the service that you will provide? Will it be on the pricing? Will it be of complementary service that you provide? That needs to be addressed. And you also need to stand out in terms of technology and data, because for me, as a technology guy, right, you build good businesses on technology and data. This is the infrastructure that gives you the competitive advantage. So you also need to stand out on that. And the other thing, if I can just say, for every early stage startup, I would say you have to know that the meeting with the VC is just the beginning of a relationship. Sometimes they will not invest. You don't need to push it too much. You need to understand that some VCs feel more comfortable investing in a certain, when certain criteria are met. Sometimes they will not invest now, they will invest in the future. So don't feel like disappointed if that doesn't work. Build a relationship, keep the VC in the picture, in the loop, have a meeting every now and then to tell him about the interesting business achievements, and maybe in the right time there will be a deal.
That makes sense. There's so many points to take out of this. I mean, the first one would be with regards to speaking to VCs. 4 years ago, when we first started, I spoke to 100 VCs. One responded saying no. So you kind of learn from there. And that same entity that said no invested in our third round, which was interesting because the valuation was much different than before. And on standing out, one of the things that is advantage for Hella is typically insurtechs in the region don't really integrate with their partners. We're integrated with our underwriter, Emirates Insurance Company, directly, and that means that claims are done like this. Policies are purchased on the spot. If you're waiting in RTA, you tap, 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 you're insured. And that's how we want to differentiate ourselves with. We are an insurance company with a tech team. We're a tech company with an insurance license. And on the insurance license side, took 1.5 years to get. So now that we're there, the moat is just having the license on its own, at least in this region. Guys, we have about 2 or 3 minutes for questions. I know you wanted to ask a question, so I'll let you go ahead, please.
Thank you. I'm Nanda. I worked in the insurance industry for many years and set up 3 life insurance companies in India. And I think the fundamental problem of the insurance from a technology point of view is the user experience. From the insurance company's point of view, the customer acquisition cost is pretty high. And from the user experience point of view, the claims are not paid in time. And I believe that, for that, the answer is to develop something called a Neo Insurance, like what Neo Banking is all about. And if you just focus only on the user experience to see that the pay-in and payout process is absolutely simple and clear. But the insurance companies have moved on the pay-in side pretty simple and clear. But the payout, when it actually comes to the claims, I mean, it's not really, automated. And especially during the COVID, we have seen the health insurance claims are not really paid in time. So do you think, Gilbert and of course the jury, when somebody is developing something only focusing on the payout process automated, do you think that will be something that, you'll be interested? Yeah.
Thanks for the question. I think when I joined Emirates Insurance and we started on our digitisation journey, we focused on claims first. And across the claims, all classes of business, we've standardised the process, we've automated a lot of the non-value-added tasks, and we've given an end-to-end transparency from a claimant standpoint. So we conduct a post-claim survey when we're completed, and we get pretty solid feedback. It's always there's always an area that we can identify to improve. But our initial focus in terms of getting our house right before we went out to the market from a distribution standpoint was to really focus on how does it feel to have the claim. I think it's an issue with many insurers. When someone has a claim, then you don't want them as a customer, right? We've got your premium and we don't want to pay you back. So I think for me it was a vote of confidence when I joined the company that we wanted to focus on getting that process right. So I agree with you that the promise of a cheap premium leaves a sour taste in your mouth if you can't get your claim paid. Now, I did mention that the market in the UAE is very competitive. So there is a lot of discounting that happens, and there are bad actors that are reluctant to pay claims. So I'm happy to say that my company, we're not in that business. We're in the business of actually resolving claims as quickly as we can.
Cool, awesome. Guys, I'm conscious of time. I don't think we have, unfortunately, time for another question. Just gonna ask you guys for any exiting remarks that you haven't had a chance to speak of. I understand you want to talk about claims. That's perfect. Do you guys want to add anything?
I think, sorry, Peter. I'll just add, I think that as an insurer, and certainly when I participate in a conference like this, I hear a lot from vendors, and I think that Gilbert's comment around not just thinking about the issue, but knowing there's another question as a vendor, I think for me is always refreshing. I get a lot of approaches from people who tell me they know what my problem is and they know how to, and that's it's often not the case.
Thank you so much. Once again, a really interesting panel, and thank you for conveying so much knowledge about this, topic that is so relevant in so many ways. So a round of applause. Thank you.